Hello there, welcome along to Outdoor Gear Chat. This is episode 33, Nice Lugs, where we're talking about trail running shoes. I'm joined as always by Cathy. Hello.
Hi Wayne, I'm Cathy Casey and I am the co-owner and director of the Climber Shop in Ambleside and the Joe Brown shops in Snowdonia. Now I know this is a subject matter very close to your heart, Wayne, but we also have our shop manager from Ambleside, Chris Worton, joining us today, who can reel off stats on walking trail running shoes and trail running shoes at a terrifying rate. And Chris describes himself as an endurance runner, climber, mountaineer, astronomer, musical actor, and nature and marmite lover. And I know from our many training runs together, marmite always factors very, very highly, whether it's twiglets, whether it's marmite, cheesy disc things, I don't know, but there's always something involved somewhere. Chris has, among his many running achievements, he does know what he's talking about when it comes to footwear, having completed the Ambleside Trail 50k, the Lakeland 50, the Lakeland 100, the Hardmoors 110, the Spine Challenger, the Northern Spine Challenger, and he's completed the full Spine race twice, and was actually down in Edale at the weekend checking this year's Spine runners footwear and kit to make sure they were ready and fully prepared for the absolutely horrendous conditions that they're currently running in at the moment. So welcome, Chris. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Raring to go.
Jolly good. Have you been out on a run today?
Not today, no. We went out a couple of days ago over Seat Sandal in the first bit of snow that we've had for a while. Snowball fights on the top, nice, good sort of 4 to 6 inches of powder snow. It was fantastic.
I saw the videos. Yeah. It was a fantastic pre-shot run, and I know you guys are very much fans of them, and it's great to get out in the early. But my God, it was cold that morning. Just driving across, that was freezing.
So, Chris, it's nice to have a celebrity on amongst all the other, an internal celebrity definitely for the shops anyway, amongst all the other guests that we have on the show. And just while Cathy was talking, then sorry, I was just checking it furiously. I had to check on the Spine's Facebook page just to see what was going on at the front of the race. Damo was on to break Jasmine Paris's course record, I think, for a short while. Anyway,
Stop watching. It just takes
I know exactly.
The leaders changed.
Yeah, I haven't checked the dots actually. So has Jack left then? Is Jack?
So while Damien was sleeping, Jack Scott went straight through Bellingham. He stopped briefly and is now probably about 4k in front.
Right, wow!
But he's sitting on a 41-minute time penalty for taking a long way in the forest.
Yeah,
it's so complex. It's so complex.
It is. All the tactics that are involved in it. Anyway, sorry, we were in danger of getting a whole episode just dedicated to Spain, which would be no bad thing. I think would be So if Montaigne are listening, for future years, we'll do that for you. But anyway, so we're here to talk about trail running shoes. So I've got many. Well, I have got 6 different brands of trail running shoe, I think, in my repertoire. We'll talk about the ones that I love and the ones I don't love, I suppose, as we go through. But I guess opening question, Chris, why are there so many different types of trail shoe?
Well, it boils down to there's so many different types of trail. You've got trails covered in mud, sort of 6-inch deep mud, hard rocky trails, steep trails, easy trails, and there's trail shoes to match.
And gravelly, all that stuff. Yeah, and I guess the brands, in my view, to a certain extent, like the US brands are catering to a different style of trail, I guess, in some respects.
I don't think they've got any mud in the US.
No. Well, that's sort of what I was getting at, and then there's I guess the likes of the trails in the over in Europe on the continent, particularly around the Alps, are very, very different from the Lake District. He says, yeah.
Do you think the American shoes, their sole patterns actually have a go faster sole pattern because they've got much scarier creatures that can chase after you when you are out on the trail running alone?
Yeah, when you're getting chased by a coyote or something like that down the trail. And I guess I'm just as I'm thinking about it, I'm intrigued in the change in language from trainer to shoe as well, that seemed to have come about a few years ago. We have switched, haven't we, from that this sort of footwear was just referred generically to as a trainer, and now becomes a shoe. Anyway, I'm going a little bit off. But what makes a trail shoe differ from a road shoe then?
It's mostly in the sole, I would say. The thing about road shoes is they're obviously designed to run on road, which is very abrasive. So they tend to be a harder compound rubber in a road shoe. The trail running shoes, because it's generally softer ground or sort of rocky stints, tend to be much stickier. So of course, if you run on the road for any length of time in a trail shoe, it's just going to wear out much quicker. And crucially, the other difference is that road running shoes, they make them for different types of gaits, like pronation or neutral strikers and stuff like that, whereas trail shoes are all neutral. So if you do pronate, you need to start sticking a supportive insole inside to correct that. They're the crucial differences, really, is materials and the shape of them, really.
So just to sort of talk about pronation and supination there. Excuse me, pronation, I've got to get this the right way around, I haven't prepared this. Pronation is when, if you look at a pair of shoes of somebody who pronates, their feet turn in, so the heels would be worn more on the inside than on the outside. And supination would be when someone's flat feet turn out, so the heels on the inside would be less worn than the heels on the outside. It's very easy to see, difficult to describe, but very easy to see if you just pick up a pair of your shoes and look at the base of them, because most people do one or the other to a lesser or greater degree. But as Chris rightly said, footbeds, super feet, or CDAS, there's a whole different range that can help make sure that your feet are kept in that neutral position to allow you to move safely and comfortably over uneven terrain.
That's a dead interesting one. I hadn't realised that before, about the sort of the pronation as well, and them being a neutral. Because I'm trying to think back to in the very dim and distant past when I ran on roads, before I started getting shin splints and hippie shoes and all the rest of it, from doing marathons on road and moving off road, and all that just seemed to evaporate. And I guess that's like you say, the road surface is so hard, and when you're a big lunk like I am, it was all going through my knees. And So do you stock the inserts, or is that something that you say you mentioned CDAS then, Cathy? Is that something that you recommend?
We stock the super feet ones, yes, in various thicknesses and different support levels. So the majority of people pronate to a certain extent, and I just find certainly going a long distance, as your muscles get tired, things start sort of collapsing down anyway. So having a super feet or similar supportive insole in there just holds your foot in the correct neutral position for a long period of time. Just means that after a long run, your foot's less tired.
Yeah, that ease fatigue element has got to make, when sort of, I guess for ultra distance running in particular, when you're just trying to gather all those little minute bits together to gain that extra edge, that reduction in fatigue is going to make a huge difference.
Well, and I guess it's brought up a load of interesting thoughts around the sort of barefoot style running, which I don't. Let's not go into, because let's not disappear down that rabbit hole just now. But I guess there's elements of that are now being introduced by footwear manufacturers as far as drop is concerned, and the height of the sole. Is that right? Is that pretty much what drop's all about?
That's called the stack height, which is basically the amount of padding between your foot and the ground, and the drop is the difference between the back of the shoe and the front of the shoe. And you're talking about barefoot running, that's basically zero drop, where the front of the shoe is the same height as the back of the shoe.
Yeah, so that can take a lot to get used to if you're not used to barefoot running or spending an awful lot of time in bare feet. If you just go straight into a barefoot running shoe or a zero drop shoe, there's I think Vivo Barefoot is like a brand of sort of everyday shoe. that can take a lot of getting used to. So it's worth kind of starting with the drop that you're comfortable with, and then if that's something you're wanting to head into, then working down over time rather than just going straight into it. Otherwise it can be a bit of an uncomfortable shock for your body.
Yeah, particularly from the calf perspective. I know that was when I started reading from the Born to Run, particularly about zero drop and that sort of barefoot style of running, and I decided to give it a go myself. It was my calves where my body really started feeling, but I do use that as part of my normal run training now, is to run like you say, Cathy, either in Vivo barefoot, and so I've got some of Vivo's trail shoes. I might have 7 different brands actually now, thinking about it. I've also got some ultras which are zero drop, and I think my Innovate a zero drop as well now. But and I guess that's for you in the shops. If people are wanting to move from road to trail, or just getting into trail running, it's important to turn up in a shoe possibly that they are doing stuff in at the moment. So if they've been doing, would you say, if you're doing road running at the moment, come along in or at least bring the shoes that you'd be running on roads in?
It's helpful, but not essential. We can normally sort of ask the right sort of questions to establish what they're after. The thing about drop is if you've got any reoccurring sort of Achilles or calf problems, as you touched on, then we would normally aim people away from zero drop and go for one definitely with a reasonable drop of somewhere sort of, I mean, the standard is between 4 and 6 mil, but some trail shoes go right up to 10 mil drops. So it does vary quite a lot, but we'd certainly steer people away from zero drop if they've got a reoccurring sort of Achilles or calf issue, as you touched on.
Yeah. And if it'd be starting to run on trails, or I'm moving from road to trails as well, is there any difference in the sizing, or how should I consider, what is there to consider with regard to sizing of trail shoes?
There's no real size difference between like a road shoe and a trail shoe. I think the difference comes when you're going distance. So as you go longer distance, your foot tends to spread out and maybe get slightly wider. So you will find that the shoes that are designed for distance running will be on the wider side, because again, as you get tired, things spread out, and you just need that extra room in your toes, definitely.
And that's sort of referred to as the toe box. Is that? Yeah, I have some shoes that have got a wider toe box for that reason, because your feet splay out a lot more, don't they? Sorry, Cathy.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, it's depth of toe box that's important as well, and worth paying attention to when you're trying your shoes, because particularly if you're fell running or trail running, if you're coming down steep terrain, then your foot is going to be pushing forward. So if those shoes are fitted too tightly, then you're going to end up with toenail issues and feet bashing against the front, which you definitely don't want. So not just width, but paying attention to how your toes feel within the toe box with height as well can make a big difference.
I was going to say, there was a wry smile from Chris and I then, I think, when you mentioned toenail issues. I think we're both in there with bruised.
I'm sporting a nice matching pair of black toenails at the moment, yes.
Yeah, me too. I managed to rip one of mine off as well.
Oh, no, you didn't need to say that.
Yeah, that was vile.
I'm out after the earlier Marmite chat, and now talking about toenails. That's it. I'm gone. Oh dear me! I've completely lost the thread now. I'm gonna yeah.
I suppose it's fair to say that you can mitigate toenail issues, can't you, with careful shoe fitting? But if you are out on an ultra, or training and putting some serious hours into your shoes and into your feet, the odds are high that you're going to end up with toenails that are not beach ready for the summer.
There's other factors as well. I mean, for example, I'm still in the process of losing one of my toenails on my smaller toes, purely because I wore microspikes, and the chain where it joins the rubber sat right above that toe. I was wearing them for a good few hours, and it just gradually pushed on that toe, and now that nail is in the process of coming off. And that was back in January, and it's still getting sorted.
Yeah, they take their time, don't they? But actually the microspikes, with the kind of surge, I suppose, of people going out all year round and using microspikes over trainers as opposed to boots, it is important to remember you have got a very, very soft fabric going over the top of your foot. So not only are they potentially going to push through, like you said, you know, with your toe and cause issues there, if you are out for a prolonged amount of time in cold, you need to really make sure they're not cutting off any circulation into your feet as well, because that can create some much more serious issues. So it's worth going out and practicing with them, I suppose, is probably the best thing to make sure that they're comfortable.
You touched on a good thing there about warm feet, because if you're going through a lot of wet ground or very cold ground, then it might be worth considering buying a shoe that's big enough to get a waterproof sock in the shoe as well, which takes up a bit more room. A waterproof sock with a thin lining sock underneath will mean you've got much warmer and drier feet, but obviously you need to factor that in when you're choosing the size of your shoes.
Yeah, because they are really size critical, aren't they? They are designed to fit like a glove. And so it is well worth trying the shoes with the socks that you're going to be out and about wearing, taking into account what you're likely to be using your shoes for. And I suppose this comes back to why there's so many. If you're going to be using them in the winter, you perhaps might want a different sole pattern to being out in the summer. Some shoes, there are some that actually have spikes included into the lugs, integral in the lugs, or you can actually buy them as an extra and pop them into the La Sportiva winter running shoes. So you've got those as an option if you're on frosty flags or iced up terrain like we've got currently. So there's lots of different options there. And if you're trundling through standard UK bog, then a small gaiter, an ankle gaiter over the top, can make a world of difference to the grit getting down into your shoe, causing foot issues, but also wearing your shoe out from the inside. It's quite often you can take your foot out of a shoe and it looks fine on the outside, but inside, around the back of the heel is all worn because you've had grit pouring down the top from piling through bogs.
I just wanted, I was just, while you two were talking then, I was just looking back through old episodes. It was episode 3 where we talk about socks.
Oh, yes.
Many, yeah, blimey, 30 episodes ago, Cathy. But that there's that crucial pairing between what you're wearing. Yeah, in as Chris said there, you've got, I use in Gingy the sort of toe socks all the time, and I have at times worn like sealskin's waterproof socks over the top of those, and then put my trainer on as well, and had all sorts of issues as a result, because the shoe just wasn't big enough to cope with everything that was going on there, really. But that is that crucial, I guess, as we've talked in other episodes about layering. For our tops, I guess it's the same for our feet, isn't it? You can have that layering system, and in particular, going back to the spine that's going on at the moment. Those athletes doing that definitely need different layers for the feet and different sizes of footwear, I guess. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, Chris, how many different pairs of socks and different pairs of shoes did you use on your full spine?
Every checkpoint, and sometimes in between checkpoints, a full change of socks. The sock combination I used was an Injinji liner sock, so the really, really thin toe socks underneath deck shells, which is a waterproof sock. And religiously anyway, every checkpoint, new set of socks, but once near the beginning at tour side, my feet were wet. Obviously the sock had failed, so carry a spare pair with me and change socks there as well. So yeah, every checkpoint without fail, even if I've got dry feet, just change them. Shoe wise, going very long distance, I do experience swelling feet, and a shoe that's the right size at the start of the race is very difficult to get into after 150, 200 miles. So yes, I carried a pair of shoes, or had in my drop bag a pair of shoes, half size bigger for exactly that reason.
And did you do similar on the Lakeland 100 as well then, Chris, with your drop bag? Was there a slightly larger pair of trainers, shoes at Dale Lane, or did you not? Yeah.
Not in the 100, no. With hindsight of the 100, it was a very wet race. I would have used waterproof socks there, but my thoughts were, I'm wearing shorts. If I'm wearing waterproof socks, all the water's going to dribble down inside the socks anyway, so I'm going to end up with wet feet. In hindsight, I ended up wearing my over trousers most of the time, so I should have.
All right. Yeah.
Good old Lake District summer weather.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is that you can. There's both ends of the scale. You've set off. Well, people have set off on the 100, and it's been 26, 27 degrees on the Friday night, and then gone through the night, and it's thunder, lightning, torrential downpours in the morning and throughout the next couple of days. So, yeah, it's a dead interesting one, isn't it? It's yeah. I've been buying the same style of shoe for years, and then suddenly, I'm coming to this season's shoes and they fit differently. Why would that be?
Manufacturers have a habit of tweaking it to make it look good on the shelf, and sometimes that will involve maybe changing the materials, maybe changing how the materials meet at certain points, and that can change the fit. So even if you've used the same one time and time again, it's always worth trying the new version on to make sure that fits the same as the old version, and the size as well. Because just a tweak in materials and the design can make a big difference in a shoe.
And for me, crucially, I've got to say, don't buy them off the internet. Buy them in a shop. Always get for that reason, because I 100%. Countless times, unfortunately, over the years, I've made that. Oh, great! I'll buy this pair because they're cheap, and actually I get them, and they just don't fit, or there's a particular rub at a different point, like you said, Chris. They changed the design, and suddenly there's a piece of stitching on a certain element of my toe, and I'm like, right, that doesn't, even on the first try, I know that it's not going to work for me. Yeah. And I guess that's another important tip, is that when you try them on, if something's
it's hard
not right,
though, isn't it? When your shoes, your trusty shoes, are falling apart, and I've got a pair with the holes in, the stitching's come undone, and I'm loath to get rid of them. They need to just go in the recycling bin. But I did my last Lakeland 50 in them, so I've got happy memories from that. But also, I think over the miles, as you run, they get wet, they dry, they get wet, they dry, so they mold to the shape of your foot beautifully and perfectly. You just put them on, it's like putting on an old pair of comfy Friends, and then you're like, oh no, now I've got to go and try loads on the shelf and go, and they're all going to feel completely different and clunky because they're not absolutely beautifully molded around my foot. And talking to a lot of different customers that come in, they kind of go through the same process, and not just with fell and trail running shoes, but with walking boots as well, perhaps more so because they last longer. But it can be quite a thing to go in and get new shoes. Sometimes you have to sort of gird your loins and like, right, okay, I need to do this. And the biggest thing with any footwear purchase is time. Just come in with lots of time. Don't rush it. Just take your time, try lots of different ones on. We actually stock in some of our shoes, not just Europe, we stock British sizes, but we stock UK sizes, and we stock also half sizes in UK sizes and half sizes in European sizes in some shoes as well, so you can really dial that fit down so it's perfect for your foot. And that obviously takes time, just to make sure you're going to want to walk around the shop. If you're running with an endurance event with a pack, maybe you want to try some weight on your back as well, because that's going to change the shape of your foot within the shoe. So there's lots of things to take into account and to talk about. But you just can't do that online. You can't get that immediate and reciprocal information, and neither is it possible even through a sort of an internet chat. Really gauge how to ask questions. When the customer comes in, we can tell it's not just about talking, it's about body language, it's about asking what they've done historically, what they're thinking of doing, and making sure that we can help with our experience of having sore feet or wet feet or achy feet, and help other people not go through that pain.
I'm just thinking, as you're talking there, Cathy, actually, about my recent acquisition of a pair of what your, I think, your shop staff termed the VJJs, which is a brand I know. Sorry, internal joke.
I have to be very careful with
please do go in and mention to the staff that you're looking for some VJJs. But the brand is VJs, isn't it? VJ.
Yeah, let's just clarify that for listeners.
Yeah. So it's a footwear brand, but where are they from again? Remind me. Sorry.
Finland.
Finland.
Yeah.
Oh right, oh God, no, right. Sorry, I would have got that completely wrong. I was somewhere else, but yeah, after having run in Innovate for years, gone into the climber shop and tried them on. Absolutely love them. They're just brilliant. Everything about them, from the grip and the fit on my feet. They're like slippers. The toe box was just the right fit for me. And again, I wouldn't have got that had I gone shopping on the internet, I guess. So again, yeah, I know we're sort of ramming the point home, but getting into our shop as a footwear specialist and getting that sort of advice. So yeah, Cathy, you just mentioned then about the trainers getting holy, and how can I make my shoes last longer?
Oh, well, this is, I am so bad at this. Chris might be less so. You're kind of better at maintaining kit than I am. But if when we've done like a couple of long days, I'd just finish and everything would just be in a pile. And I'll be like, I'm dealing with that tomorrow, just crawling in the tent and going to bed. And Chris is just like laying everything out neatly, making sure everything's correct, everything's clean, everything's ready for the next day. He even asked me to uncrinkle his paracetamol capsule at one particular point on a checkpoint. Everything has to be just so, and that is critical to succeeding in doing all these ultras. Right, I don't do them. I haven't got that personal discipline, but you can, all of that meticulous time spent looking after kit makes it last longer. Keeping your shoes clean when you're coming back. I suppose I like to think that by coming home and walking up the beck, that's my shoes cleaned, and then they're left outside to air. Never put near a heat source. They just air dry. And it's pretty damn unpleasant, particularly at the moment. I'm running every day this month. Climbing into still wet shoes is not a nice thing to do before going out for a run in the snow, but it's far better and far more beneficial than sticking them on top of a radiator, where A, they're going to make the house reek, and B, they're just going to dry too quickly. They're going to get super hard. They're going to be uncomfortable to put on, and at some point the leathers involved and the natural fibers involved are going to fail.
And that heat, I guess, any glues that are involved in the manufacture of them are gonna alter the consistency of that as well.
It's possible. And the other thing, actually, and Chris did get me into doing this. I never used gaiters beforehand, but actually using the little ankle gaiters does make a big difference to the amount of crud that gets into your shoe, and making sure that that's all emptied out and doesn't wear them out from the inside. That does definitely make a difference.
Because the last thing you want to do is, you've got your laces perfect, you're running up a hill, and then suddenly you've got a stone in your shoe. You don't want to stop and undo the shoe and get rid of the stone and do them up again. You've just got your laces perfect. So yeah, the debris gaiters really work.
Yeah.
I've never managed to get on with.
Not a gaiter fan? No,
never got on with them for all sorts of different reasons. But yeah. Really interesting point as far as prolonging life. And like Chris said, that frustration of having to take your shoe off and then empty your stone out and then try and get the laces right, and then you spend the next 3 miles altering your laces again. It's really frustrating, isn't it? So,
and it's kind of like lacing is a voodoo art form. It does take, you sort of lace them at the beginning of your run or your race, and then a mile in, stop, relace. Something's not quite right. It is really important to do that. As is carrying a spare lace. Chris saved my bacon on that one as well, because my gaiter at the time sawed through one of my laces, and I don't know, but we were doing Gargrave to Hawes, weren't we?
Yes, and that was on the Cam High Road, wasn't it? Just
yeah. We've gone through the night, so run through the night. We did have an epic sunrise, didn't we? It was an absolutely astonishing sunrise. But I was absolutely fried, and probably about 3 or 4 miles out of Hawes, my lace broke, and I was just like close to tears. And Chris, all I remember is this shoelace appearing from Chris. And I was like, oh my god, that's fantastic! I can get up and run again, yahoo! And we got into Hawes and ate vast quantities of sticky toffee pudding, which made the world a much better place.
gallons of tea as well. That always that's always
custard. Forget the tea, custard.
But brilliant. But yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I like you say there. I always carry on the longer runs. Always carry a spare pair of laces, and on my. I think we mentioned this before. And on my poles, I have duct tape taped around my poles. Somebody had given me that tip, and that's come in handy a fair few times as well. Once for giving it to somebody else just to tape the sole of their shoe back onto the upper to get into the next checkpoint, which was fascinating. But definitely works. Those little tips and tricks.
Well, I can't actually throw away a pair of shoes now without taking the laces out to keep them for the next time. So I've got spare laces in every rucksack that I own.
Just touching on making the shoes last longer, you mentioned about sticking them on top of a radiator. Yes, absolutely, keep them away from a heat source. But also, especially a trail shoe, try and minimise the road running, because we said about how abrasive that is. If I've got any stretches of road to run, I try and keep right to the edge. You know, where you've got the crappy sort of dead leaves and stuff like that right on the side of the tarmac. I try and run on that as much as possible. It just stops the abrasion on the soles, and it does, in my mind, produce a little bit more cushioning than the hard road surface itself.
Yeah, I like that. It's not, like you say, nice mentality. Whether it does or it doesn't, up in my head, it's tough the surface wise.
Certainly feels softer on the knees.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're coming to the final minute. So, what is the one key tip that you'd give to somebody when they're coming to buy trail shoes?
The right shoe for the job. So, if you're primarily doing long distance, go for a long distance shoe. If you're primarily doing soft ground, go for a soft ground shoe. It makes such a difference having the right shoe for the right. It's like tools for the job. Your shoes are a tool. You're doing a job. Use the right tool.
And buy a pair of boot bananas, because they're going to start reeking after you've used them.
Boot bananas, brilliant. Yeah, my feet honk. Yeah. So that was episode 33, trail running shoes. Thank you very much for joining us today, Chris.
And thank you. And you can find out more, or you can see a huge range of running shoes at www.climbers-shop.com. And there's also a wealth of additional information at www.joebrownoutdooracademy.com.